in the back over there. Good.
Yeah.
Iris? Good. Okay.
Okay, let's call to order this meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission. The date is May 19th. The time is 6:30.
Please be advised that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice of the time, date, and place of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission has been sent to the Bergen Record and Ellis Besalito on Thursday, May 15th, 2025. The same notice has been sent to the city clerk for posting on the bulletin board outside the clerk's office in City Hall and on the Jersey City website. I have proof of this notice. If we could mark this as B1. Thank you. We will move on to a roll call attendance. Commissioner Gucciardo is absent. Commissioner Samkamp?
Here.
Commissioner Gunther?
Here.
Commissioner Sakong?
Here.
Commissioner Blazak?
Here.
Commissioner Gordon?
Present.
Vice Chair Griga is absent. And Chair Cronin.
Present.
There are 6 members of the commission present this evening. 5 affirmative votes are required for a certificate of appropriateness. Would you like to?
Oh, yeah. Before we get going, I have a special announcement about one of our members, Corey Gaega. The reason why he's not here is he sent me a note saying he's rushed his wife to the hospital and the doctor wants to induce labor. So he'll be becoming a father this evening at some point. So, I mean, he may still come in. Who knows if the meeting goes long enough, but I probably doubt it,
That is very exciting to hear. Thank you for the announcement. Do we want to do, or do we want to? Yeah.
Okay.
So we have some of our commissioners to swear in this evening.
I'm okay with sitting down. Just raise my right hand.
Okay, first we'll do, is this on? This does not sound on now. Okay, thank you. First, we will swear in Commissioner Gunther. Can you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Janelle Gunther,
I, Janelle Gunther,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the government established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of a commissioner
perform all the duties of a commissioner
of the Historic Preservation Commission
of the Historic Preservation Commission
of the City of Jersey City,
of the City of Jersey City,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Here, you can sign this. Okie doke. Now, Chair Cronin. Raise your right hand to be sworn. Perfect. Repeat after me. I, Daniel Cronin,
I, Daniel Cronin,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the government established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially, and justly
perform all the duties of the chair
perform all the duties of the chair
of the Historic Preservation Commission
of the Historic Preservation Commission
of the City of Jersey City
of the City of Jersey City
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Just right here? There you go.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have the approval of minutes from the April 14th, 2025 regular HPC meeting. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes? Okay. Since there are no corrections or changes, staff recommends making a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Gunther, Commissioner Sand. Okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Sandcamp,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Abstain.
Commissioner Sakong,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Abstain.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
and Chair Cronin.
Aye.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 in favor, 0 nays, and 2 abstentions. The minutes from the April 14th, 2025 regular HPC minutes are approved. For correspondence, all copies of correspondence and application materials are linked on the agenda through their application numbers. Going back into announcements a little bit, staff has one announcement. Item 8A under old business, case H24-0248, 24 Bright Street, has elected to carry to the June 16th, 2025 regular HPC meeting. Next up, if there are any members of the public who would like to speak regarding matters of historic preservation that are not listed on tonight's agenda, please approach the public comment mic. Again, this is for matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Staff sees no members of the public wishing to speak and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Dan, if you'd like to call the first case.
All right, calling the first case. We are dealing with H-25-0041 Continuum Design. The applicant is Continuum Design LLC, applicant on behalf of Nasserga Mark. How do you pronounce that? Markanda and Manuel Farouk, owners, 571 Jersey Avenue in the Harsimus Cove Historic District. Certificate of appropriateness for interior renovations, rear terrace and full height rear addition at 571 Jersey Avenue, a non-contributing 2-story residential building built circa 1975. I apologize for mispronouncing people's names.
Thank you. Tom, you've presented in front of the board, but if we could just get you
Yes, I
sweared
have.
in.
I do. Thomas Ogrzalek, Ogorzalek.
Staff notes that Mr. Olgazarek has previously been qualified in front of this board as an expert in the field of architecture. And feel free to begin whenever you'd like.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Damn. Can everybody hear me? If I
Yeah, without.
or do I really need to?
Please speak into the mic. It helps for the
Got it.
recording.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, I will. I'm a partner at Continuum Design. I'll be presenting the architectural plans tonight for 571 Jersey Avenue. This is a existing non-contributing building in the Harsimus Cove Historic District, and we're proposing a rear addition that's going to be 3 stories. And so what I'm going to do is probably I'm going to walk you through the construction documents and all the things that were loaded up onto the portal for you, just to get you oriented a little bit.
There's a little button in the middle. If you just hit where it says push, it should turn green.
Got it.
There you go.
Yeah. Nice. The project's located on Jersey Avenue, right across from the Key Foods. You can see that there's a series of similar properties adjacent to it on the northern side. And if you're looking at the proposed site plan, you can see the area of the addition in the rear. If you look at the block plan, you can see the location of the subject property, and you can see where the addition to the rear is. And the intention is that the addition to the rear is going to align with all the other existing buildings to the north. just to get you oriented a little bit with the history of the site. If for those of you who are interested, this actually, if you look at the tax map or the tax photo from circa 1938, you're going to notice that there was a single building occupying 3 of those lots, and then the lot that we're actually doing work on was an empty lot, but they were all owned by a single owner. That was actually St. Mary's Church. They rented that out to the State Department of Labor, and then subletted the building to the State Probation Office and Department of Hygiene and Sanitation. Part of the building was also used as an industrial museum for safety devices and a rehabilitation clinic for workman's comp. As far as we can tell, at least until 1948, and that's when somewhere thereabouts there was a fire that destroyed the entire building. Then the whole property was subdivided into 4 lots that are all approximately 18.75 feet wide by 100 feet deep. Our project, if you look at the tax photo for 74, the tax photo isn't that clear, but essentially that's what the building looks like today, other than the vestibule. Not that you can really make that out because those tax photos are actually pretty poor. So our proposal is to do an addition on the rear of the property. And probably the easiest way to kind of see that is looking at the line of sight drawing, and you can see the hatched area kind of designates where the addition is going to be in the rear. So there's a rear addition at the ground level, at the second level, and then at the third level. And that's where the project becomes visible from the public right-of-way. So from Jersey Avenue, you'll notice that a portion of the building will be extending about 6 feet above the existing ridge line of all the buildings that exist there along that row. Our intention is to kind of be as nondescript as possible and match it with a previously approved project at 575A. So what you'll notice on the block plan or block elevations all the way to the right, which is the northernmost part of these 4 structures, there was a previously approved project, and our intent is to kind of match it in kind, not go above it, and match all materials. I'll kind of return back to the materials later, and we'll get into the details of that further on. So let's get to the existing conditions plans. At the ground level, there's a kitchen, a small kind of eat-in area, a living area in the front, utilities, and a powder room. Second floor is 2 bedrooms in the rear, 1 bedroom in the front. And the third level is basically attic storage. It's a gabled roof. You can kind of see that in the existing conditions section. The front of the building currently is brick masonry facade and a new shingle roof. That was done about 3 years ago. So that's brand new. The rear is also brand new materials. It's a 7-inch lap siding. It's a fiber cement with new sliding glass doors and egress windows and a new roof on the back. So that's your existing conditions. The proposed plan proposes to do an addition that aligns with the rear yard of the adjacent property. There's an existing single-story structure at the adjacent property at 573. Our goal is to go out no further. That would put us at the 30-foot setback. And the reason we're doing this is we're trying to add a larger kitchen area and dining area for this family that wants to stay in Jersey City and continue to kind of grow their family. The second floor is essentially taking the 2 bedrooms that we had before, enlarging them, but pushing them all the way to the rear addition, which leaves us some space in the center for a kind of open area study and to be able to fit in a brand new stair up to the 3rd level. And then finally up on the 3rd level, you get to the top and it becomes just a master suite. At the master suite, it's a large bedroom area, a large closet, master bath. They also wanted exterior space, so there's about a 4.5-foot exterior deck. When you're looking at this, you can kind of see along the rear elevation The rear elevation basically looks we're using the same materials as we did before. We're actually reusing the windows that were there. We're reusing the sliding glass doors that were there. They're only about 3 years old. You can see the deck up above and the sliding glass doors at the back for the third floor addition. There's a new ladder being proposed that will be permanent. That'll provide access to all the HVAC equipment. One thing you'll notice is we are putting some HVAC equipment up on the roof area. You can see that on the southern side of the roof. It's against the adjacent building, so it's not going to be visible from the public right away. We've also pushed it far enough back from the ridge so you'll never see it from Jersey Avenue. There's also a skylight that we're adding that's going to bring light down that brand new stair to the second floor area to get some kind of natural light in that central space. The rest of the drawings I'm going to kind of walk through for you. Kind of just basic electrical and lighting plans, some minor mechanical system plans that you're going to see. All the new spaces are going to be served by the new mechanical systems. The existing mechanical systems will be saved and salvaged and still used. And we're going to just add for the new spaces. All the units will have control in the space. So the 2 bedrooms have their own units. The dining room area has its own unit. The master bath and the master suite has its own unit. And that's all going to be served by the new unit that sits up on the roof. You see this a little bit better in the cross of the building section. So going from the ground floor to the top, you can see the elevation of the existing kitchen along with the extension of some cabinetry into the new dining area. You'll see the stair to the second floor, the brand new stair headed up to the third floor. You'll see the new rear bedrooms. Those dashed lines that you see in the image indicate where the existing building envelope was. So you can kind of see the back of that gable roof, and you can see where the rear wall of the existing building was. So that'll give you a sense of what the previous building massing was. And then at the uppermost level, you see the new master suite with that area of exterior space on the deck. The rest of these drawings are kind of just getting into details and specifications of some of the equipment and materials, so I can return to these if you have questions. I wanted to kind of revisit in a little bit more detail the materials package we sent and uploaded to the Tyler portal that you guys should have a copy of, so we can go a little bit more into the details of what the materials will be, the ones visible from the public right away and the ones on the rear elevation. So what you're seeing now is the existing front elevation. Again, there was a renovation done to this project back in 2021, so this is all brand new brick and a brand new roof, brand new windows in the front. And then that's when these owners moved in, after that renovation was done by a previous owner. The new proposal calls for that addition in the back where we get this 6 feet of kind of vertical wall at the ridge height. After speaking with staff with the previously approved project at 575A, we thought the best approach was to kind of try to make this as nondescript as possible, make it almost invisible as best as we could. So we used fiber cement panels as opposed to, let's say, a 7-inch lap siding, which we felt may be a little bit too busy at the top. Plus the fiber cement panels are a little bit more contemporary. They were much easier to install. You'll notice that the color that we're using is a pearl gray for the fiber cement panel. The coping is an aged pewter, so the coping and the trim is going to get a little bit darker. You'll see this in a second in one of the other images. This is a sketch. Don't think it's a rendering. It's what we would call a sketch that tries to match the tonal values of the colors with the proportions of the massing. So this is what you would see if you were across the street. This is basically what's already existing now, just completed in construction at 575A to the north. And then for the rear decking, for the rear rails, we're basically just using black aluminum rails and square balusters. All the trim is existing. For the existing windows is black, so we're keeping all those colors the same. The new rear sliding glass doors at the upper level are black. We're relocating the existing HVAC unit further back, so what you're seeing on the wall there is an existing HVAC unit just being installed 12 feet further back on the new addition. And then the goal for the lap siding back here, there's existing lap siding. The goal is that we'll try to match that color as best as possible. It's similar to the light mist color, which is a standard color for Hardie. But again, this is not visible from the public right away, but we're trying to keep it similar to what already existed, which was a 7-inch lap siding. I can revisit any slides or if anybody has questions about anything.
Were you the architect on the other project that you're citing?
Yes,
as
we
well?
were.
Okay.
We were.
Can you go to the section? I just have really one question.
You want the detail or you want the building section?
The building section, yeah, this one here. So what is, so we have the additional, so you said it's a 6 foot above the existing ridge beam.
Yeah.
So then you have, okay, I see the slope of the existing roof. And then it looks like there's like a drop ceiling.
Yeah,
in that.
there's a drop ceiling in here.
So what's going on there?
So what's going on there is you've got a series of existing vents for bathrooms and mechanical systems. And what we're doing is we're moving all those horizontally so we can bring them further back on the roof. So when we bring them through the roof, we won't see them at this front end of the roof. So this whole space here is also where we have a cassette, an HVAC cassette. It's a kind of ductless system which services this area. So over essentially, and you see it better here, over the stair, well, not the stair, but over this area, over the walk-in closet, over the master suite, all this is an 8-foot ceiling. This is all a cathedral ceiling, and then this is cathedral down over the stairs, so the light from the skylight comes in. But in this area here, that's where we're running all the venting pipes from one side of the building to the other that existed, so we can kind of basically move everything as far away from the ridge as possible, so when they come through the roof, we're not going to see any of this. Did that?
Yeah, I guess my only question is, and I don't remember, I don't think I was here the day of the other project when it was approved. And I don't know if it's the same kind of condition scheme up there, or if they have like a higher floor to ceiling on at 575, or if it's the same.
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
I guess, and I'm just questioning, should this have been, hey, look, this has already been approved at 575. I'm just wondering why maybe some of that wasn't reduced a little bit just in height. I'm just trying to understand.
The overall height.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to push the overall height down as much as possible. So the pitch on that upper roof is 1.5 on 12. We basically have a TPO roof on that. So there's no shingles up there. That's basically a flat roof. And we dropped that as low as possible. We had worked with staff prior to, staff who is currently away on maternity leave. Not staff present here today. I just want to make that clear. We worked with staff to try to keep that as low as possible at the time. And we wanted to be able to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room at the rear of the building, because we knew we were going to have some heavy loads on that roof, and we wanted to be able to drop beams as opposed to doing flush beams at the rear wall, because that wall also becomes a shear wall. So that gives us some lateral stability in the back. So there is a reason we have a header plus a space above it. Otherwise, we could have maybe dropped it about 9 to 10 inches, but then we would have been doing some structural gymnastics that we thought may not be the most appropriate.
And yeah, I think that answers my question too. Like, if there's nothing, no structural or any changes that can be done to minimize the height, and you're matching what's at 575. The other thing that I guess explains it too is, I almost think it would have been better maybe if there was like some fenestration in the windows, but with
We
the,
had in the front wall, it was all full of glass.
Yeah.
First approach because we thought it would be great to get eastern light into that portion of the building. But there was a concern that the glass, two things with the glass. At night, it was going to light up like a
window.
like a candle. No, I don't. We wanted it. Let me be very clear. But also, it would maybe call more attention through its reflectivity than just an opaque panel. So, and that's what's led us to some of the let's say the 8-foot ceiling spaces and that allowed us to be more flexible with systems.
Okay. And Michael, do you know when was this approved? I'm just curious.
If I had to estimate, it was probably, I was going to say April because I had
April.
just joined.
Okay.
It was April. It was April of
24. Yeah, last year.
April of 24. I've lost track of time.
I was in California, so that's why I wasn't here that day.
How convenient.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Is any other questions?
Okay. I don't see any questions. Does that conclude the testimony for this application?
Yes, it does.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we will move into staff comments. So as we discussed, yes, this is pretty much a mirror to the application that we saw at 575A. It is a pretty straightforward addition on a non-contributing building. Contextually, it's very much in line with the size of additions that we've seen in recent years within the historic district. It is slightly visible from Jersey Avenue, but again, this is a non-contributing resource, and the proposed addition meets the bulk standards in the H zone. HPC staff also notes that there is some visibility through the addition through the alley on 3rd Street, but there are existing intrusions already present in the alley as well. So in general, staff acknowledges that the proposed addition is heavily visible from the front facade. It's a vertical increase of 6 feet. However, due to the building's non-contributing status as an intrusion into the historic district, it should be considered as long as it does not distract, or cause an adverse effect to the surrounding historic resource. HPC staff believes that if the commission finds the application as presented would not have that adverse effect on the Harsmith Cove Historic District, it could be approved due to the building's non-contributing status with the following conditions as present in the staff report. These are mostly our standard conditions, as well as one that just says all light fixtures shall be downcast in nature. Any questions for staff? No? Okay. So again, staff's recommendation is a motion to approve with the conditions as present in the staff report.
I'll make the motion to approve with the conditions as set forth by staff.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take a roll call. Commissioner Sandcamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther?
Aye, given that we have a previous approval that binds us to approve this.
Commissioner Sakong?
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak?
Aye. And I also want to note, I think I think there's an opportunity here for something that could have been better, and I hope the architect if wanted to, could revisit that. Just as part of my comments as well, if that's something that he or his client desired to do.
Commissioner Gordon?
Aye.
And Chair Cronin?
Aye.
We have 6 in favor, no against, no abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness with conditions is approved.
Alrighty. Moving right along to case H-25-0050. Continuing Design, LLC. I'm assuming that's you. Applicant on behalf of Katie and Alexander Pavia, owners at 573 Jersey Avenue. It's going to be a busy block there. And this is in the Harsimus Cove Historic District. They're going for a certificate of appropriateness for interior renovation and a full height rear addition visible from the pedestrian right of way at 573 Jersey Avenue, a non-contributing 2-story residential building built circa 1975.
Yes. Okay, so for the record, I'll walk you through the same thing. It's a very similar approach. The existing conditions are very similar. What I'll point out is maybe some of the differences, so it makes it a little bit easier to understand. Again, it's a rear addition. Part of it will be visible from the public right of way. The difference on this particular project is that there's an existing ground level single-story addition that had been done. That was done, I want to say, back in the early 90s. The early aughts. And we are keeping that building footprint. We are going to have to tear off the existing roof that was on it because the structure wasn't compatible to be able to hold floor loads and other loads. I'll get into the details of that when we get into the sections. But what you can see here is this is essentially the addition, that hatched area. Again, this will be visible from the public right away. And to Commissioner Blazak's point, it is proposed based on what has been done before. I would love to revisit the front wall. I would love to do it with every one of the clients, but this is where we're at the moment with the design. And I don't know if we'll be able to do that once we drop those ceilings. To just move on with this project a little bit more, existing conditions are a little different. You'll notice at the ground floor area, and so I'm going to use the cursor here, so if those of you are following along on your screen, this back area here is the existing dining room, this addition that was done previously. You can see that in the rear elevation. It's a partial gable roof and a partial shed roof from the back of the rear wall. They had built it that way because they wanted 9-foot to 10-foot coffered ceilings, never thinking they were going to do an addition. You can see that with the clear story glass that's here. All of that is going to end up being removed. I'll show you why in a second. But essentially the floor plan layout is similar to the other unit that I just showed you at 571. 2 bedrooms in the rear, a bedroom in the front, 2 full baths. The ground level has the dining room already has the footprint back here, so it doesn't need a new foundation like the adjacent property. For the most part, the existing front is not going to be touched. It's an existing brick masonry front with shingle roofs. Everything in the back here, unfortunately, is going to not be able to be reused because of the way it was constructed. So we're not going to be able to reuse the bedroom windows, and we're not going to necessarily be able to reuse the sliding glass doors. Moving to the proposed plans, you can kind of see we're going to try to emulate the coffered ceiling they had here before. We're not going to have the height to do it, so we'll show you that when you see the section. But this is the existing condition at the ground floor. So we're not adding a foundation. We're not adding to the footprint down here. And what you'll notice, that what I want to make sure that you're aware of, you'll notice that at the ground level, there's a space between the adjacent building at 575 to the north and the existing rear wall, I'll call it the northern wall of that dining room. There's a gap in here, and this is where all the existing stormwater drains go for the building at 575, right next door. Not 575A, but the building right next door. So we didn't want to touch that. When you get up to the second floor, you'll notice that the 2 bedrooms extend fully to the rear of where the rear wall is, but they also extend right to the edge of their property line. So we're actually cantilevering over that space so that we get the full width when we go up to the second floor and the third floor. Otherwise, it would have been incredibly narrow. And with this lot already at 18.75 feet, the bedrooms, as you can see, are pretty narrow in the back when you split them in half. So we're cantilevering over the back. And then the difference up here is that in this particular approach, the clients wanted a much larger family room. They've got more children than the adjacent properties. They have more reason to be inside. They didn't want an exterior deck. They just wanted more room inside, more flexible space. But they've also added a full bath up there. So that's the kind of layout and approach for this particular project. The rear elevation is a little bit different than the previous rear elevation. All new windows here, but here in this little space, you'll see this is the edge of the northern wall of the ground level. This is a space between 573 and the adjacent building at 575. And then you can see the cantilever that goes over and runs to the edge of the property line, all the way up from the second and the third floor. We tried to make the second and the third floor a little bit more cohesive with one another. The rear is matching the same lap siding that we're using at 571. We're going to try to match the same color, the same style. What they have back there now is lap siding. It's 7-inch lap siding. It's a fiber cement, so we're going to just replace it with the most current new fiber cement. They have accent panels in the back here. The accent panels are actually going to be dark night gray. It's a standard color for Hardie, and I'll get into the specific materials. I was in your material palette or your material booklet. But up on the back here, just to kind of notice, for all the new units or for all the new spaces, there's another kind of mechanical system. There's a new condenser up top, and there's a roof hatch. We don't have any skylights in this roof. They didn't want any skylights. So we just have a roof hatch to be able to access this and be able to maintain this in the future. Again, kind of just basic electrical and lighting plans in the areas where we're doing the addition and the renovation. Same thing goes for the mechanical systems. All the new spaces are getting new units so they can be controlled at those spaces, except for the dining room level. That's going to still work off the existing HVAC system. We're able to salvage that. But at the second floor bedrooms and up in this area for the new family room, that's all on a new system. In this section, this is the section where you'll see that the reason we had to, if you look at this dashed line here, follow that dashed line, that's the profile of the existing building. This was the ridge of the gable roof. It's about 5 feet up. And then there was a sloped roof here. There was no way we were really going to be able to salvage that without having a jump in the second floor somewhere in the bedrooms and having to elevate the rest of the building even higher, which would have elevated the top plate in the back, which would have consequently had an impact on the front wall. So we tore all of that out. We couldn't salvage it, so we could align all the floors and then keep this as low as possible. Keep that to match what was there for the other projects in terms of its slope and its profile and its massing. The rest of these are just details and specifications that I can definitely return to if you guys have questions about these. And then just getting into the materials, we're not doing anything to the existing materials in the front. The one thing we are doing, obviously, is we're adding the fiber cement panels to try to match what's next to it. So in this drawing, you can kind of see where 571 ends. We're going to pick that up. We're specifying the same colors, the same trims. We want to try to make everything cohesive across that whole front facade. For that street elevation. Again, this is a sketch, but so you can kind of see how the two are meant to kind of tie into one another. And yes, something is coming here. I can't stop this now. And I would love to revisit it, but it may be challenging. I am in agreement with Commissioner Blazak there. Here, you can see in the rear elevation, the one difference that we have for the beyond the lap siding, we also use some fiber cement panels here. The note here, I just want to point out, when we submitted this, it said color to be approved by owner, but there is a specification that's been added So you'll find that on sheet A6 on the elevation specification. It's a night gray. I know it's not visible from the public right away, but we did want to put a color spec on it. We think that's going to match or create enough of a contrast where it doesn't look like it's the same color. We wanted to make a contrast. The client wanted a contrast. If staff wants us to kind of show samples of any of these prior to purchase, we can do that, just so we can make sure that everything's matching in the field before they actually place the orders. If there's questions, I can answer.
Any questions? No? Okay. So if that concludes your testimony, then we can move on to public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving into staff comments. All the same comments apply from the last one onto this one. It's very much the same application. And again, this does kind of create a pattern across the top. So we will just have that one empty space for now until that application does come in. But
Give me a week.
See you next month.
Tom, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
You've confirmed that the height of the new ridge aligns with the one on the end and the one right next door. Can you confirm that the planes are also coplanar?
The planes are going to be a little bit different because the slopes are going to be a little bit different. And where the difference is, it's easier to show you this in section. So because this slope is running all the way to the back here, we are extending this all the way to the back. We are trying to match it with the same exact slope that's next to it. And we should be able to do that and still make headroom here. That's the goal. So the goal would be, and the easier way to kind of imagine, if everybody can imagine where this dimension line is, imagine that the roof had stopped there and then there was a deck out here. However, we really wanted to try to lower the overall height of this 6-foot piece. So the reality is going to be that this will be a little bit higher because, and when I say a little bit higher, not in the front, you'll never see it. But if you were to look at this from the roof plan, and if you were to look at all 4 roofs next to each other from above, there's going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little bit higher because we kept that low point. So that's a great observation, but they're not going to all be perfectly in plane from above.
I actually wasn't asking about the roof top plane. I was asking about the ridge plane.
Oh, the front's all in line.
They're all in line.
Yeah.
They're all coplanar to
They're
each
all
other.
coplanar to each other. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
So more explanation than needed. Apologies.
okay, yeah. As I was saying, the staff believes that the proposed addition is contextual and in line with the size of additions, particularly at the neighboring structures. So HPC staff believes that this application could be approved due to the building's non-contributing status in the district with the following recommended conditions as laid out in the staff report. These are all the same conditions except for on this one there is no rear lighting proposed. So if any does get added between now and construction documents or permitting, we just ask that they'll be downcast in nature. Other than that, there are standard conditions. So again, HPC staff recommends a motion to approve with the conditions as laid out in the staff report.
By the way, just before we get to a motion, I just want to state for the record that if there is another proposal for the missing tooth in this, I don't think it needs to match exactly the same. If it's the same architect, wants to do something else that's different but compatible, because these are non-contributing buildings, and this doesn't detract. And I think there is a tradition of rooftop additions that are similar but can have differences, or even rows that have different A, B, C patterns, etc. So just for the future, if something different wants to be done, can be done, I think.
I'll take that into consideration and speak with staff about it.
Having said that, I'll make a motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
Was that Robert? That was you?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Just didn't hear you. Okay. Commissioner Sandcamp.
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther.
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong.
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak.
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon.
Aye.
And Chair Cronin.
Aye.
There are 6 votes in favor, no nays, and no abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness with condition is approved.
Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. See you in a couple months. Maybe. Okay, moving right along to case H-25-0053. Stephen Joseph Esquire, applicant on behalf of Selena Zido and Thomas Cook owners. The address is 338 Montgomery Street, aka the Progress Printing Building. It's in the it's in the Van Wert Park Historic District Extension / Montgomery Gateway redevelopment. The applicants are going for a certificate of appropriateness for the enlargement of the existing second floor with an addition to the rear in the construction of a roof deck visible from the public right-of-way, the installation of new windows, doors, and new in-swing doors at the vehicular entrance of an altered contributing vernacular purpose-built industrial modern warehouse with classical revival overtones constructed circa 1925.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Higgins on behalf of the applicant this evening, actually. So this is 338 Montgomery. It's the Progress Printing Building, which I'm sure most members of the commission are familiar with. This is in the Van Wert Park Historic District, and we're here seeking a certificate of appropriateness for renovation, rehabilitation, and an addition to the existing second story of the building. It's sort of right mid-block between Monmouth and Varick. So really, without further ado, we could have our architect sworn in, Jeff Jordan, and he can walk the commission through the plans.
Mr. Jordan, do you swear that the testimony you will provide this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Spell your last name for me.
Jordan.
Staff notes that Mr. Jordan has previously presented in front of this board and been qualified as an expert in the field of architecture.
Thank you, commissioners. It's been a while. It's nice to see you all again. So as was noted by council, the proposed project is a second-story addition to the Progress Printing Building. For the record, that building, as shown in the site plan here, is 100% lot coverage. However, the second floor occupies roughly the front 20% of that coverage. So what our clients are interested in doing is expanding the second floor to create a single apartment that they will use for themselves. The ground floor, as shown here, is currently a garage type space and has been used traditionally as a garage and as a printing shop. That space will remain largely open, unprogrammed space for now, but they would like to retain the garage portion as a small garage for their unit, occupying sort of the central part of that. And then there'll be access to the one side up to their unit, as well as some storage and a small bathroom for their unit. So they'll be occupying a small part of the first floor. And then on the second floor, as you can see here in the existing condition plan, there is a small apartment up there now, several smaller rooms. That space will be reappropriated. There's an existing brick wall across the back. Much of that will remain. We're going to remove a portion of that in order to bring the stair up. But otherwise, the apartment will then expand backwards toward the parking lot in the rear. Not occupying the full second floor, but taking up a little bit more space than is currently there now. The new apartment will have 3 bedrooms, kitchen, dining, living space, and then it'll look out onto what will effectively be a roof garden in the back there. There's a roof plan for reference. as was noted, the existing building facade is largely intact. The proposal is to actually restore and take it back to what it would have been as close as we can approximate. We've worked with staff on detailing in-swinging carriage doors that will be used for the garage parking. The windows will all be replaced with historically accurate windows, including the larger storefront units on either side. And in general, the idea is that the front facade will look much better than it does now and be consistent with what would have been seen in the 1938 tax photo. The rear facade is somewhat visible. There is a parking lot behind the building you may be familiar with, so you can see the building from across the street. The addition onto the back will not be visible, however, from Montgomery Street, given the existing height of the parapet on the front of the building. So the proposal on the back of the building is largely a glass facade, again, looking out onto what would be a roof garden, more or less floor-to-ceiling windows. And then on the sides where we don't have windows, there'll be metal panels for the siding there, consistent with the proportions of the windows. It's just a simple sort of box out from the existing second story. Sightline drawings just to represent there is going to be some new mechanical equipment. Given the, and you can see here in the section, given the current height of the roof and parapet, we actually have a tall parapet that's going to block the mechanical equipment from Montgomery. It won't be visible. And then the roof of the new part of the addition will actually go up higher than the existing roof, which will again block much of the equipment from the parking lot in the back. So most of that will be contained and not visible. And that is it. Short and sweet. I will take your questions.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Do you have any photos of the existing rear facade of that second story?
So I apologize for not having better photos from up on the roof there. You can't really see much of it in this. I tried to get some extra photos in here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blazak. What I will tell you, you can see in the elevation drawing there are some original openings. They have been filled in subsequently with block, not brick. They're not particularly attractive, and there was a small addition built onto the back, which again was more utilitarian in nature. And so the rear facade has already been altered over time, and those windows have been, in my opinion, compromised. So we are, as I pointed out, we are with the proposed plan changes, we're actually trying to keep as much of that back wall intact as possible as a feature within the space. So the existing window openings will be reappropriated as doorways moving through the space and plan. And the rest of the wall, which we couldn't keep for this stair, will go away.
Any other questions? Okay.
Could you possibly walk us through the restoration of the primary facade with a bit more detail, just
Absolutely.
the different elements, the new windows and door?
Colors, materials.
Yep. So the brick will remain. It'll be cleaned using the gentle methods that are typically used in these applications. The existing window sills at the storefront windows in particular have been painted. You can see in the images here. The paint will be removed, and so the existing stone will be exposed and left intact, similar to what's happening on the sills on the second floor. The new windows will be wood windows, painted brown. We have the color on here as well. And then the doors, the carriage doors, we have some details at the back if you'd like me to go through them. Those will be all wood, and they're quite large. Bear with me. So these are large wooden units which will have, oops, I apologize. The upper 40% of those will be lights, divided lights, and then below will be a panel with that cross pattern, that brace pattern, and then rails and stiles around that. All these details we've worked with staff already to a certain degree, but the idea is that as we get into construction and have a better opportunity to take a look at the detailing of the windows and the doors, We'll go through and work through them with them in greater detail to sort of resolve some of those finer details. Does that answer your question? Or is there more?
Yeah, could you, I wanted to see more details about the windows. So these are just flat, they're not box windows or bays or anything
Correct.
like that?
Yep. These are
Okay.
flat windows. The lower windows are a storefront window with transoms above, divided as shown in the drawing. The upper apartment windows are currently a set of sort of triple double hung windows, no divided lights. That condition will remain with a new window. They do have those sort of muntins or elements in between them, dividing them currently. All that will be exactly as it is. It's just there'll be new windows to replace the older ones, which are single pane and poorly operating at this point. The sill will remain intact. The lintel, all that is all in good shape and will remain as is. So these are essentially just new infill windows to match the historic condition.
Thank you.
And all the brick at the ground floor is original to the best of your knowledge, or is it just a different mortar, or is it a different brick between?
I think it's been painted. And here, I'll go to that photo. I think there's been, given the nature of the neighborhood, maybe some activity along that brick through the years. So you can see in the images here, yeah, it looks like maybe it was repointed on the top half, Commissioners, you're pointing out, with a slightly different mortar. And then there's been some painting and some other work on the bottom. It does appear, as far as I can tell, I'm not an expert in this matter, but it does appear that it is the original brick for the most part. Mr. Reedon may have a different opinion, but
I agree.
he agrees. But the window openings, the door opening seem to be very consistent with what we're seeing in the 38 photo, so it leads me to believe that that's all original.
Any additional questions?
What is your, and I'm sorry if you said this already and I just missed it. What is your plan color selection for the mortar joints?
The mortar color will be to match, so we'll work out in the field what that appropriate color is based on what's there. So we don't have the color yet. It'll be to match what the existing condition is.
I ask because there's, when I look at the photo in contrast to the drawn elevation, which I understand is, it's not for this purpose, but the photo shows an enormous amount of playfulness and the coursing is really interesting. There's lots of different stuff going on in the coursing. So the mortar seems to be an important element in expressing that, so as to maintain that playfulness.
Yeah, and again, our intent is not to change the mortar in any way. It simply will be, if there's any repointing that's necessary, it'll be matching the adjacent mortar as appropriate for where it falls within
of the upper portion, not the lower portion.
Correct.
Yeah. And this deep forest brown that's sort of being used for all the different frames, do you have a sample of that, or
I don't have a physical sample with me.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what that's meant to be. It's, of course, the color never comes out quite right in these images. So what we would typically do in this application is during construction with staff, we would share samples just for final approval. Same with on the back, there's a dark bronze color being proposed for the metal panels in the window frames. It's all meant to sort of be the same, both for the panels and the frames. That's something that we would also share once we have those final material selections.
And another question is, the commercial space on the ground floor, is that conditioned commercial space? In other words, does the apartment above need to be insulated, not just fire rated against the commercial space below?
Yeah, it'll definitely be insulated and fire rated. I don't believe, Tom, is that garage space conditioned presently? Any heating or cooling?
In what way, I'm sorry?
Any heating or cooling in there?
They're super old.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, he's the owner. Yeah, my apologies. There's some existing equipment there now. The plan longer term is to actually use that space for something else, and it will be conditioned properly. But the apartment work will definitely have its own insulation. It'll be self-sufficient in that way, right?
I just want to confirm that the portion of the residential addition that goes beyond that first bay, which pops up higher than the existing one,
Right.
that you've accounted for whatever insulation you need below, so that it doesn't have to go higher once you
Oh, yes,
once you
absolutely.
factor all those in.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and you can see in the section drawing here, we actually are including, we're showing insulation graphically there as well, assuming that'll be the case. And we have, yeah, and we have a good amount of height to work with there in terms of the ceiling heights as is, so we will not need to raise that roof any higher.
Thank you.
Shall we move on to staff comments?
So first, we're going to do public comment, as long as there's no other questions from the commissioners. Does that conclude your testimony, Michael?
That does.
Okay. So if there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we can move into staff comments. I think Dan is working.
We're experiencing some slight operating difficulties here. Thank you. Who was smart enough to do this? That's my report. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it greatly. Staff believes that the application is generally consistent with the standards for the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. The architect and I have met extensively over the property, and we have a good working relationship. So I think that we can work out any details of the particulars of the windows, the door, and the two side entry doors, as well as the mortar, and any cleaning or restoration of the brick and the stone at the first floor on site with the contractor. The addition at the rear is going to maintain the majority of the rear wall, which is very much welcomed. And the addition will not be visible from the front of the building. It'll only be visible through the parking lot at the rear, and the addition is a very simple, modern design, which will be easily distinguished from the original building, but will also probably die into the background. Staff recommends the project. It should not cause an adverse effect on the character of the district, especially because the addition will be below the parapet. So the building will maintain its 20th century industrial lower scale character. The standard conditions are pretty much going to apply. That Jeff Jordan Architects will be retained during construction. The existing painted signage, Progress Printing, will be repaired and maintained as appropriate. Rear deck or accessories will be minimally visible from the public right-of-way. Details, specifications, and material submissions not currently submitted to and approved by the HPC under this certificate of appropriateness or changed during the course of construction are remanded back to staff. However, before work commences, exploratory demolition will confirm the placement and construction of original doors, windows, and other character-defining features of the front facade. The applicant will work with staff to ensure the appropriate garage and entry doors are constructed and finished in an appropriate manner. Construction drawings will be submitted to staff for approval before construction permits are applied for and issued. Any changes or deviations from the approved drawings will be clearly bubbled on the construction drawings and noted in an accompanying sign and seal letter to staff. If there, depending on the degree of change or deviation, additional review by the HPC may be required. And upon final approval of the certificate by the HPC, any deviations from the granted approval must be approved by the HPC except for in cases of emergency affecting the public safety, health, and welfare, which may be approved by staff. Changes or deviations that result in new work may require a new application to the HPC for the same work. And last but not least, before any certificate of occupancy is granted, we are going to require a sign and seal letter from the architect noting that the completed work was consistent with what was approved tonight in this certificate of appropriateness, and outlining any deviations that there may be.
So-
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
Not a question per se, but I think we expect to receive physical sample boards. We're about a year and a half out of the Zoom paradigm now. We're meeting in person again for quite some time, and I think some applicants and architects are still not in the habit of bringing in those physical sample boards, but we would like to see them moving forward.
I will remind applicants again.
Yes. No.
And that's noted.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, the recommendation from staff this evening is a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness with conditions as read into the record and in the staff report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Does your client accept the conditions?
We have reviewed the conditions and they're acceptable.
Great. Now move on to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sankamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunter?
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong?
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak?
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon?
Aye.
And Chair Cronin?
Aye.
We have 6 in favor, no against, no abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness with conditions is approved.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you.
Take care.
I just have to excuse myself for a moment to go get a glass of water.
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, we'll moving right along here. Case H-24-0410, Jensen C. Vissel, registered architect, applicant on behalf of Hector Herrera, owner. The address is 289 4th Street in the Harsimus Cove Historic District. Certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a 2-story infill addition at the 3rd and 4th floors of an existing 4-story rear addition and the construction of a new iron fire stair at the required means of egress visible from the public right-of-way. Gut interior renovations, restoration of front facade, including the removal of existing triple window at the parlor floor and the restoration of the original 2-bay window arrangement. The replacement of windows, the replacement of doors at the basement, and the parlor level repair and repainting of brownstone stucco at the front of an altered contributing 4-story 3-bay Greek Revival brownstone fronted row house constructed circa 1860.
Do you swear that the testimony you provide this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name.
Jensen Vasel, V as in Victor, ASIL.
Thank you. Witness is sworn.
Staff notes that Mr. Vasel has previously been qualified in front of this board as an expert in the field of architecture.
Good evening, commissioners. Good to see you again. I'm the architect for 289 4th Street. Project is in the Harrismus Cove Historic District. The proposed project is for a gut renovation and infill rear addition to an existing 3-family brick row house. Project is on the south side of 4th Street, towards the corner of Coles. It's an interior lot that's fronted on the front with the front on 4th Street and the rear of the property facing the public alley. The applicant looks to fill in this back addition, add a fire stair, and also to restore the front facade. There had been some work specifically at the parlor and garden levels that was done in the past to widen openings, so we're actually bringing it back to the original condition, the 1938 condition. On my first sheet here, the HPC 1, you can see on the block diagram, the building is massing-wise is pretty consistent with the rest of the block. It does have a garage, an existing garage in the back, which would not be touched. It would just be the principal building where the work would happen. The proposed condition is conforming for zoning, and the lot is slightly undersized, but it's otherwise conforming. So on HPC 2, you can see the existing and proposed site plans. On the left, the drawing number 1, there's a front driveway that would remain and gate. There's a planter bed now on the stoop that would all the configuration would all remain as is, with some actual enlargement of the planted areas. At the rear of the building, there is a 1-story what we're calling a shed, which is the egress from the basement unit to get to the backyard, which is slightly higher. That would be removed, and then the entire area between the garage and the principal building is paved with concrete, and that would be all taken up and replaced with pervious gravel, actually pea gravel between the two buildings. So, in order to maximize the impervious coverage on the lot, we've made the entire area between the two buildings pervious. And then expanded the planter bed at the front on the side of the driveway, and added one inside the property line, right next to the existing stoop. So, and also there's a photo there. You can see the gate and the planter. On the next sheet, HPC 3, we have some photos of the site. So, starting from the top left. An aerial from the rear of the property looking back towards 4th Street. And you can just catch a glimpse there of the cutout at the top 2 floors. So there's an existing partial addition. And then there's a small cutout piece there that's currently used as decks. And then on the photo below it, we have an up-close photo of the front facade where you can see the brownstone rustication at the bottom 2 floors, as well as the lighter brownstone that has a tooling pattern in it on the upper floors, and also the cornice, which is chipping paint, but is actually overall in fairly good condition. There is an aluminum awning there that would be removed. And while I'm on that photo, just to call reference to the fact that the lintels and the sills from the original opening are still there, and they left them and filled it in with that 3-bay, 3-wide window. The rear of the property is, as you can see, it's very tight. So this is a composite image. There's a basement in the first floor that are to the full extent. That footprint won't change. And then on the left, you can see the 2 decks that are filled in. Those would all be removed, obviously, and the building would go all the way up. And the fire escape contraption that's there would be removed and replaced with a proper steel stair, exterior stair. Let's quickly on number 4. Again, you're looking down that block. You can see consistency of these additions in the rear going all the way down the rear of that block frontage, and also the garages. And finally, we have some just pictures of the existing garage as it is and as will remain. On the next page, HPC 4. We have the existing layouts. Right now, it's a duplex apartment on the garden and parlor level with 1 unit each on 3 and 4, or on 2 and 3. That's how it will remain. That configuration, the interior with that stair will all be obviously gut, and the addition will fill in the back. We are keeping the remnants of the wall at the original addition. So we are keeping that 1 foot piece that they to show or demonstrate where the original building original building ended, and we're proposing to remove the chimney breasts that are there that are going from the garden level to the roof. On the next sheet, HPC 5, we're showing the proposed layouts for the units at garden and parlor. Again, that's a duplex unit. It's 4 bedrooms, excuse me, with 2 on the upper floor and 2 downstairs. That's going to have the kitchen. It's an in-law kind of situation, so they have 2 small kitchens. They have the kitchen on a small kitchen up there on the parlor, and then one on the downstairs. But it'd be like a mother-daughter, and then an apartment, the bedroom and bathroom downstairs, and then another bathroom upstairs. On the upper floors, as I mentioned, those would be 2-bedroom layouts with the living room fronting 4th Street. And then at the back of the building, the fire stair, which is turned to the side, so it's straddling the back of the building. The sightline diagram on number 6 shows that the proposed AC units, which would be located on the roof, cannot be seen from the front public right-of-way. And then also you can see from the alleyway over the garage, you can catch a glimpse of the 3rd and 4th floors. On the following page, HPC 6, we have the existing front elevation, which is drawing number 1. The upper windows would just be removed and replaced in the existing openings. The entry door and awning would be removed, and a new door to match the 1938 would go in. That triple double hung window would go away, and then we would keep the original, go back to the original lintels and sills, and fill the openings in with the windows at the parlor level, which are quite long. Additionally, on the garden level, the same configuration, although there were because it was that rusticated bands with no headers there. It would just be the water table that forms that maintains as the header. So we would actually bring the height up a little bit, and then the sill down to about 4 inches above the grade level. All of the windows would be wood windows, and the proposed color is Essex green. I have a group of samples here, which I'll pass around in just a second. The tooling and the stucco color would be approved on site. I have put a approximate brownstone color there, but I think it's best to match the predominant color on the site and what was appropriate for the time. So there'll probably be a few samples that are put on the building and approved by staff. The back of the building would have a sliding door with to the stair access to maximize light, and then a double casement window into the bedroom there. So, and then that material would be stucco, which is again pretty consistent with that block frontage for additions and also what's there, and a aluminum gutter and fascia with a black leader that connects to the storm sewer. So I think right now I'll pass around some samples.
Yes.
This is Palm, which is the stucco color, the rear stucco color. The front window color, which is Essex green. The fascia and trim colors, which are the Benjamin Moore black, the historic black. The okay, which is the, it's Class A rated fire-resistant wood for the fire escape. And then finally, the Marvin aluminum ebony color for the back windows. That also is a good approximation for the gutter and leader because they're also black aluminum. On the next page, HPC 7, you can see the section of the building just filling in, and also the removal of that rear addition. The details for the steel at the fire stair, which, as noted in the report, is utilitarian, but we do have a top and bottom rail with some steel balusters. We have a section for the little stairs coming out from the garden to the rear yard, and the gutter detail. And then on sheet HPC 8, on the left are the front window sections, including that color. The door under the stoop, which has which is 2 panels with a glass upper light, and finally on the on the next page, HPC 9, we have the sliding door elevation and details that are going into the to the rear, as well as the casement window detail also in the rear. And finally, on the last sheet, HPC 10, we have the sections in vertical section and plan section of an elevation of the entry doors, again, which would match the 1938 photo and whatever surrounding site evidence for original doors we can gather from the block. So this would, especially with regard to the sticking around the window openings, or the glazing lights inside the door, and the transom. And that concludes the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, yeah, I do. This might be more of a question for staff. Do we typically accept such a dark color for window sashes on Greek Revival buildings?
The Essex green is a color that we do see an awful, I believe it was Essex green. Yes, right. It's a common color here in Jersey City on buildings that are not being restored to a period of 1860, but you would see it during the building's period of significance, starting possibly in the 20s and definitely by the 30s and 40s.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for bringing in samples. I mean, it was noted earlier. And yeah.
And do you have any idea when the existing addition dates to?
I don't. No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
The existing addition, at least in part, the L appears on the 1873 Hopkins map. And it does appear that another wing was added on and some infill later on, probably about 1920.
But there's no historic fabric left even from that original edition? Or
The
very little, if any?
windows have been filled in, altered. There are a couple of sills left, but the integrity of the rear has been destroyed.
Yeah, normally, I wouldn't normally hesitate with a full height, full width addition, but looking at this context, looking at the block, it seems like this is a site where it can take it, I think.
This will, however, retain the historic rear wall of the L.
Yes.
Okay, and the lower part of the addition to the west or to the east. This is only going to be a 2-floor infill where you see that wooden balconette that is going to be filled in. The fire escape will be taken off and new fire stairs will be put there.
Any additional questions from the commission?
I just want to say I'm enthusiastic about the restoration of the primary facade. This building needs it, and I'm going to be happy to see that aluminum awning come off and the restoration of the parlor level windows. I think it's a nice improvement. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay. If there are no... Austin?
Sorry.
You're good.
Couple questions. I too share the enthusiasm about this project. Long overdue, I think, and a welcome project. What's the scope related to the entrance under the stoop?
So we're planning on replacing that door, but we're not planning on doing anything to that existing paving that's there.
And so that white gate that I'm seeing in the existing photo, is that the door that would get replaced, or is that remaining?
So yes, that door is going to be moved actually to where it was underneath the stoop. That
Understood.
will be that area that would be filled in, and then we would have it directly underneath the parlor level door.
Okay. I just note that the front elevation should reflect the continuation of that material under the stoop, either with a cutaway elevation or something.
Got it.
The other question that I had was, in the historic tax photo, there's a peculiar thing that I'm seeing at the bottom of those parlor windows that almost look like sort of metal panels. I can't tell if the window's just partially open or if that's a fixed architectural feature or a flower box. Do you know what those are?
I believe that is infill. I believe that originally these windows would have gone down to the water table.
Yeah.
They were originally brick buildings that historically had a coat of rendering or stucco placed over them to simulate more decorative stone. The parlor windows were filled in when they were no longer fashionable and windows were more standardized.
Yeah.
But we do, if you look at the current photograph, you can see those same boxes. The shadow lines are a little different, but you can see those same boxes under the historic quote-unquote sills.
Mm-hmm. Clearly the proposal is a vast improvement over that kind of whatever it is, the 70s suburban thing happening there. I guess the maybe obvious dumb question would be, why not bring it all the way down to the water table again? Would that be prohibitive for the client?
I don't think that would be prohibited by the standards. It wasn't something that was brought in. This is a condition that is documented within the period of significance of the building and the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we no longer have the windows that are there now are a 1/1. They are a modernization from the original building, as is the double parlor door with the transom atop. So staff's opinion is that it's quite possible that the infilled windows are part of a later rehabilitation within the period of significance, and they kind of go together.
And like Commissioner Gunther said earlier about the window color, I think she's also thinking of earlier Greek Revival buildings that often had multi-light windows. that's probably when you had that configuration when the parlor windows went down further, all the way down to at the same level as the door. So if we're not gonna restore the windows to multi-light configuration to maybe a lighter paint color, we're restoring this kind of a later period of significant, probably more like turn of the 20th century or so, than the original configuration whenever this was built.
Yeah, I find that taking the windows at the parlor floor to this later height and not going all the way down is acceptable because there's evidence of other, right, alterations. The 1/1 windows would not have been historic, and the facade was originally brick, and now it's stucco coated. So I think taking it back a step to match what's in the tax photo is acceptable. I think if we were to, encourage lowering the sills to the original height, the windows would start looking proportionally odd because they're not multi-lights. So I think that's a slippery slope, and that the way it's been presented is acceptable to me.
Yeah, I think I concur. I think that those are great observations. That's it from me. Thank you.
This might be a staff question. It's the 3-inch PVC mast. Are we accepting PVC now? Because I don't remember that.
For the electrical. We have been accepting PVC because that is what it's not Con Ed. What is it we call it here? PSE&G has been installing lately, but we do paint it.
So
Will be
from my
painted to
knowledge,
match.
PSE&G is not the one who installs the mast. They bring over the wire, but they don't install the mast. As you're saying.
They have been kind of how can I put it? Not so gently suggesting PVC as opposed to metal.
I've seen a couple of them, but
I don't know why.
90% of the historic districts have metal masts.
Yes, and when they're painted,
and historically they should be metal.
Could we change it to a metal? And if PSE&G causes problems, we will have Commissioner Sandkamp speak with them.
All right. I will.
I know you will. That's why I'm suggesting it.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll move on to public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so staff comments. Staff recommends approval of the project with conditions. I think we've discussed quite a bit of it so far. The proposed parlor floor windows will be revised to reflect the historic configuration as shown in the 1938 tax card photograph. Exploratory demolition will be undertaken to determine the exact size and position of the windows before the windows are ordered. The architect shall review all site evidence after demolition, shall review all shop drawings for the proposed windows, and shall present his findings to staff for approval before purchase, manufacture, or installation of the new windows. I did leave out a section that said the same condition shall apply to the basement windows. The proposed parlor floor front facade entrance shall be revised to reflect the historic configuration and detailing as shown on the 1938 tax photograph and available site evidence at adjacent buildings and on-site during exploratory demolition. The exploratory demolition will be undertaken to determine the exact size and position of the door, transom, and framing before the ensemble is ordered. Architect shall review all site evidence after demolition, shall review all shop drawings for the proposed door ensemble, and shall present his findings to staff for approval before purchase, manufacture, or installation. The same condition shall apply to the basement entry. I believe that in the absence of direct site evidence during demolition, we're going to find paint ghosts. that we will be able to coordinate with the tax photograph and with neighboring houses of the same period. The proposed finishes for the front and rear facades are to be approved by HPC staff in the field before execution. The architect, Jensen Vassal, RA, shall be retained during construction and shall submit a signed and sealed letter representing and noting that site construction was consistent with work approved under the certificate of appropriateness before the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Detail specifications, material submissions not currently submitted to and approved by the HPC under the certificate of appropriateness or changed during the course of construction, as well as shop drawings for the windows, doors, and fire exit stairs, may be remanded back to the HPC at the discretion of the HPO. And then, again, more of our usual conditions, construction drawings noting materials and finishes, cross-reference with the materials sample board, are to be reviewed by, approved by, and signed by the HPO or HPC staff for compliance with the issued certificate of appropriateness before construction permits are issued for and are applied for and issued. Any changes or deviations from the drawings approved under the certificate of appropriateness are to be clearly bubbled on the construction drawings and noted in an accompanying signed and sealed letter from the architect addressed to staff for review. Depending on the degree of change or deviation, additional review by the HPC may be required. And upon approval of this certificate by the HPC, any deviations from the granted approval must be approved by the HPC, except in cases of emergency affecting the public safety, health, and welfare, which may be approved by HPC staff. Any changes or deviations from the approved plans over the course of construction shall be submitted to HPC staff in writing from the architect of record for approval on an as-needed basis. Changes or deviations that result in new work may require a new application to the HPC for said work.
Again, the recommendation from staff this evening is a motion to approve the COA with conditions as read into the record and in the staff report.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions as set forth.
Second.
Jensen, do you agree to these conditions?
Do.
Okay. So I will move on to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sandkamp?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther?
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong?
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak?
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon?
Aye.
And Chair Cronin.
Aye.
So we have 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness with conditions is approved.
All righty. Yeah. We're going to take a little 5-minute break now.
Okay. Sounds good.
See everybody. Make us look good. I guess we can kick back off.
Okay. Everybody coming back.
All right. So let's move on to our next case. Let me just find it here. And that is case H-25-0023, Jensen Vassal. Is that how you pronounce it?
Vasel.
Vasel, my bad. All right, applicant on behalf of Bart Everett, owner at 632 Jersey Avenue in the Hamilton Park Historic District, certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of the existing 3-story rear yard addition and the construction of a new 3-story rear yard addition with a rooftop terrace visible from the public right-of-way as part of the conversion of an existing 4-family dwelling to a 2-family dwelling in the Hamilton Park Historic District. No work at the front of this contributing altered 3-bay, 4-story masonry and frame Italianate row house constructed circa 1860.
Thank you. Good evening again, Chair and Commissioners. Also the architect for 632 Jersey Avenue. As introduced, this is an interior renovation to convert a 4-family to a 2. It's not a full full interior renovation. The majority of the work is happening on the owner's unit, with owner's triplex, which is the parlor through the the top floor, the third floor. The front facade, the front's in great condition. We're not touching it. The rear has an existing masonry addition that is two stories and is not the full width. There's a setback between it and the neighboring building that would come down in order to expand it to a 3-story rear addition. There's currently a deck over that addition as well, and there would be a new roof terrace that would go back in its place. Starting with sheet HPC 1, the site's located on the west side of Jersey Avenue, east side of Jersey Avenue, between 7th and 6th Streets, closer to 6th, one in off the corner. It's because it's one in off the corner, it's blocked in quite a bit. So by the building that is fronting 6th Street and the corner building, which has almost 100% lot coverage. So the proposed addition would only be able to be seen from 7th Street if there were no trees or obstructions or things like that. I can show you, show you that condition, but they would be from the furthest point away from the opposite side of that block. The proposed addition is conforming to zoning ordinance, 60%, and there is a stair from the parlor level to access the rear yard. The garden level would remain a rental unit as it is. So on the next page, HBC 2, have an existing site plan and a proposed site plan. On the existing, you can see the outline of that addition with the gap between the addition and the neighboring building on the corner. And then the rear is right now has a planter bed at the perimeter and is blocked in on buildings at the rear and on the side, on the right-hand side. And then the proposed condition would be to have a full width addition against the adjoining property that's extended on the corner, 60% lot coverage, and that stair to the rear with some bluestone pavers. And we chose synthetic grass only because when you see some photos, there's very little opportunity for it to get to have any a lot of natural light. They do have young children, so they want a place to play. So the sort of manicured kind of shade garden doesn't fit for their use. We would use thermal bluestone in the back, and the coverage, impervious coverage is the pervious coverage is maximized on the lot. On the next sheet, HPC 3, you can see it's quite a lot of vegetation there, but you can see on one, you can see from the corner looking to the north, the building on the corner, as well as the building right behind. You can catch a glimpse of of our addition, which is lined up with the addition at the back of that corner building, and the little deck there. Below it, on photo number 2, you can really get a sense of that, the massing of that existing addition, which is 3 stories, 3. It's 3 above ground, like 2 plus the basement, and then there's an addition on that deck that's on top of it. So, and you can see the gap between the 2 buildings. And then number 3, you can see the rear yard with that building coming in off 6th Street, the raised garden at the perimeter, and the gravel that's there now. So, so it's blocked in quite a bit by the adjoining buildings, and that building on 6th Street is straight 4 stories of brick straight up. So, moving on to the next sheet, HPC 4, the existing layouts, the rental units, and then the owners have the top 2 floors. I'll just make a quick, just technical note is that it's listed as a 4-family on the tax records. It currently is a 3-family, with the top 2 floors being a duplex and the bottom 2 floors being separate units. I don't know when it was converted, but it's currently being used as such. And on top of the existing roof, there's a rooftop RTU with exterior ductwork, which is very unsightly. All of that would be ripped out and the mechanicals would be completely redone. On sheet HPC 5, again, you can see the proposed condition where the configuration at the basement apartment stays essentially the same. The kitchen stays intact, the bathroom stays intact. Where there's an addition, instead of having mechanical room, they'll have 2 proposed bedrooms with a little walkout because their basement level is below the rear yard grade. There'd be a retaining wall and just a small sort of area, a little bit of outdoor space for the tenant. And then on the parlor level, there'd be large glass doors with a set of stairs to get down to the rear yard, to the backyard. And then on the parlor, second and third floors, those would all be the owner's unit, which would consist of 3 bedrooms with the living, dining, kitchen on the bottom floor, powder room, 2 bedrooms on the next level with a laundry room, bathroom, and then sort of a family room, informal family room in the front on Jersey Avenue facing the street. And then the master suite on the top floor. The top floor is the original footprint, and then the terrace would be expanded. It's not the full. It doesn't cover the full addition. There are setbacks on the right-hand side, which is the north side, and the east side on the back. There'd be 2 heat pump units which would go towards the back of the building. If you look on detail 6 or drawing 6, we put them at the back. You can't see them so they're not visible from Jersey Avenue. Photo 7 is the photo from 7th Street. So that would be the one where it would technically be able to be seen. It's through all the trees and everything else. I've been there. This is a winter photo. I've never been able to see that far through all the obstructions, but technically it would be. You could see it in a perfect world. On the following sheet on HPC 6, we have the proposed condition at the back. The back right now is the stucco, the cement stucco, as you saw, and that would be replaced with brick. So we have this Belden face brick, this red face brick, black aluminum windows, the big sliding glass doors at the parlor level, and then 2 smaller sliding glass doors at the back at that little private patio that's enclosed with a retaining wall. Additionally, the sills would be cast stone, which would be a light gray or medium gray, and there would be a cast stone water table and stucco that would be from the parlor level floor down to the grade. So there's a little change of material there with the heavier, the more monolithic masonry giving way to the brick on the upper floors. The railing is a cable rail, minimizing its visibility. From 6th Street, you can, if you go far enough down, you can catch a glimpse of the existing railing. You'd be able to catch this, but it really would not be with the cable rail in that distance over the corner building. You wouldn't. I don't know that you would make out much of it other than the little bit of black iron work. And then on the adjacent building, on the side elevation on number 3, that cast stone water table carries along. There's like grace, it gives way to a stucco on that side facade, and that's would be a light Wickham gray color on the upper floors, and the same with the lower portion. I'm going to pass around some samples here. Stone. This is the color of the stucco. The back. The rear windows. All of that trim, which is a different black from the last application. This brick that's on the back facade. finally the deck tiles. So it's got I think some pretty neutral, some warm neutral colors on that back, and moving on to HPC 7, you can see from the section, especially on drawing number 2, the existing and proposed condition where the moving the addition back. The deck tiles would be the pedestal system, so there would be minimally there would be they wouldn't step up from the back. They would be less visible, and also at the back gutter is a simple gutter with a black aluminum leader to the back. The windows are all black aluminum clad. So on the right-hand side of HPC 7 is the garden level. Marvin sliding doors. On the following sheet on HPC 8 is a thinner profile Marvin Modern with 4 panels. And then on the second floor, that same Marvin Modern in a French casement. Also aluminum clad in the black. And then finally on HPC 9, we have the that top floor rear door to the terrace, which is also in that aluminum clad, and the last double hung window. This is on the original part of the building, so there's a differentiation in both material and the window style between the addition and the original building. And these actually fit in the original openings, so there's no change to that configuration at the top floor. That concludes our drawing presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
You noted that the existing addition railing, the top, was visible from 6th Street, and therefore likely the new railing would also be visible. Do you have a section that shows whether or not the coping and the addition itself would be visible from 6th Street?
I don't, and it's not from directly across the street or it's not direct. It's diagonally down the block. You can just catch a glimpse of it.
And when you see it now, you're only seeing the railing, or are you also seeing the existing addition?
You only see the railing, and it's only the part that pops off. So if you see the
part that juts out.
Yeah, that part that they turned into a fire escape, which extends quite a bit beyond.
Right.
And that is primarily because of the trees and the fence that are on that side of 7th Street and that run through the backyards.
Jensen, can you confirm if the outside face of the addition is forward of or behind the part of the existing railing that juts out that far? Do you know what I'm asking?
I do. So the projection of that, where that projection ends, is very close to where the proposed addition is.
Okay.
As far as the line, yes.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact measurement, but it's very close.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions?
So I like that you're using brick for the rear facade instead of a stucco. Is there a reason you're not wrapping the side? Is it just weight and attachment issues, or could you extend the brick over to the north-facing facade as well?
We definitely could. There's the brick thickness, and the cost were the two considerations for the side.
Since we can't consider cost, what could you explain a little bit more about the brick thickness and how that would affect your wall system, please?
Sure. So inside the plan is exactly symmetrical between the two sides, but if you had one side thicker, if you wrap the brick around because of the brick, the airspace, and everything else, the one side would become, on the interior width would decrease on both sides, making everything, the windows and everything a little bit narrower. because you'd have to mimic it on the left side, even though you don't need that thickness on the left because it's against the building. On the right, that 1'4" of wall thickness would shift everything, everything over.
Any additional questions? Anything further? Does that conclude your testimony, Jensen?
It does.
Okay, then we can move on to public comment if no commissioners have further questions. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding the application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we can move on to staff comments.
Again, staff sees the application to be generally consistent with the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation. Currently, there is a 3-story masonry basement and frame 2-story addition at the rear of the building, which is at least recorded in the 1873 Hopkins map. It appears to be the same addition that is there currently, and it has a very modest Italianate Revival cornice atop it. The addition is visible in principle from 7th Street, but it is very hard to make out any sort of details or decor for that addition from the distance of 7th Street. The application to demolish the addition and to replace it with a new addition, which is just slightly larger than the additions to the north, should not be necessarily discernible. And it follows the bulk standards and leaves 1 story or 1 floor off, so it does not go the full height of the addition of the building, allowing for a little bit more of the donut to be the block donut to get light and air. The new rear addition is consistent with the broad patterns of development in the area. So, in staff's opinion, I do not think that there will be an adverse effect to the neighborhood. The question by Commissioner Blazak is well taken. Most of the additions on that row are stuccoed. So I don't think that a stucco finish would be necessarily inappropriate. The conditions of approval that staff would ask the commission to impose are our very standard conditions: that the architect of record, Jensen Vazel, shall be retained during construction and submit a sealed letter representing and noting that site construction was consistent with work approved under the certificate of appropriateness before the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Details, specifications, material submissions not currently submitted to and approved by the HPC under the certificate of appropriateness, such as shop drawings, are changed during the course of construction or remanded back to the HPC or shall be reviewed by HPC staff. Construction drawings noting materials and finishes, cross-reference with the material sample board, to be reviewed by, approved by, and signed by the Historic Preservation Officer or staff for compliance with the issued certificate of appropriateness before construction permits are applied for and issued. Any changes or deviations from the approved drawings are to be clearly bubbled on the construction drawings and noted in an accompanying sign and seal letter from the architect addressed to staff for review. Depending on the degree of change or deviation, additional review by the HPC may be required. And upon final approval of the certificate by the HPC, any deviations from the granted approval must be approved by the HPC, except in cases of emergency affecting the public safety, health, and welfare, which may be approved by HPC staff. Any changes or deviations from the approved plans over the cost of construction shall be submitted to the HPC staff in writing from the architect of record for approval on an as-needed basis. Changes or deviations that result in new work may require a new application to the HPC for said work. Since I do not believe that the owner is present at this hearing, would you please be sure to give the owner a copy of these conditions? I know that you're acting as his agent, but please make sure that the owner understands these conditions.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question for staff. I didn't really notice the cornice until you mentioned that there's a cornice. And is there any concern with the removal of the cornice from the? I'm guessing there's not, but can you just speak to that for a moment?
I have walked by this property a number of times. There's a concern with removing the entire addition. I don't like removing, historic fabric insofar as we could possibly save it. The cornice, you cannot really notice it from 7th Street. I do not think that it is necessarily good preservation to remove the cornice and re-erect it on a new addition. But if the architect was to somehow refine or incorporate some design motif from the existing cornice, I don't think staff would have been opposed.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a minimum, I would strongly urge the architect to try to at least salvage it. Maybe not for reuse, but for some
Installation
use.
in my office.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Or, it seems like it's a cornice that's in good shape, and it's a good example of a cornice on a rear facade. I think it's kind of a shame to lose it, but otherwise, I think this is appropriate.
Okay, again, staff's recommendation this evening is for a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness with the conditions as read into the record and in the staff report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Who was that? Sorry, who was the
You went
second?
first,
And
I'm
then-
the second.
Okay, Cronin. Sorry, just missed the second. Do you and your client accept the conditions?
We do.
Awesome. Commissioner Sankamp,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon,
Aye.
and Chair Cronin.
Aye.
So we have 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. The motion, this certificate of appropriateness with conditions is approved.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
You too. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Punch right here.
Okay, moving right along. We are going to H-25-0162. Andres Cortez, RA, applicant on behalf of Salomon, Liza, and Eli Pincus, owners, at 163.5 York Street in the Paulus Hook Historic District. This is for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a 1-story addition atop a previously approved 3-story addition, not visible from the public right-of-way. This application is to approve work subsequent to a previously approved certificate of no effect, and then in parentheses this is H23-068 for site improvements, front facade repairs, new windows and doors, a 3-story rear addition, and repainting of brownstone stucco at the front of an altered contributing 4-story, 3-bay, Greek Revival brownstone fronted row house constructed circa 1860 and altered circa 1890.
Do you swear that the testimony you provide this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your full name, please.
Andres Cortez.
Spell your last.
Cortes.
Thank you. Witness is sworn.
Staff notes that Mr. Cortez has presented in front of the board and has previously been qualified as an expert in the field of architecture. Feel free to begin.
Press the little button until it turns green.
There we go. Okay. Okay, good evening. Nice to see some of you. It's been a while since I've presented here. So this is a second proposal, we have a previous approval, as was indicated, for 3-story addition in the rear. And what we're looking to accomplish here tonight is a slight enlargement or single-story addition atop the previously approved 3-story addition. So I'll just zoom in to the site plans. Here we have the prior approved addition from column line 4 over to column line 6. I just want to point out that we had cut out this courtyard over here in order to provide light and air to the neighboring building to the east. And that partly motivates what we're seeking to do today, because as a result of that cutout, a lot of square footage was not given to the owners for their home, and they're trying to recapture a little bit of that at the top floor so that they can have a more comfortable bedroom. So that's what this proposal is down here, where we're looking to just do this enlargement. It's about 70 to 75 square foot enlargement at the top floor between column lines 4 and 5 on the site plan. Okay. And this area in gray, sort of an elevation zoning section, I'll call it, indicates the proposed total addition. You see here, it's noted as 75 square feet. Okay. The motivation, again, is they have their master bedroom up here. Now that we are midway through construction and can really feel that bedroom, it's quite small. We always knew that going into the project, but at the time, staff recommended that if we were going to seek an enlargement to that room, that we file it sort of separately and subsequently, which is what we've done and why we're here now. Okay, and here's sort of the proposed impact on that bedroom. It just makes it a comfortable bedroom, really. Everything else stays identical to what was shown in prior approval. I think I'll just skip ahead to this drawing. So on the left is the prior elevation, and the top floor, the fenestration at the top floor is the existing fenestration. There was a door and the 2 windows and a smaller sort of side window over here. And we had proposed this ornamental metal railing up there for a deck. So we're essentially proposing to keep the same articulation at that top floor, same door, same windows, same window configuration. We've measured those carefully during construction and are proposing to keep the prior approved railing in place, just obviously a little bit smaller now that we are trying to enlarge that room. Materially, we are utilizing the same palette that you've seen on some of the prior presentations tonight, and with the red masonry that would match the prior approved masonry down below, blacks for the metals, and on the side elevation, now I think I can back up. On this side elevation over here, this area, which was going to be a stucco, a sort of a taupe, a grayish type stucco color, we're just proposing to keep that same color at this new added portion over here, so keeping the stucco consistent throughout. We did want to show these sections over here just to indicate that from a structural and from an envelope and waterproofing point of view, we're addressing all of these issues. We're not going to have, or we're not creating a hazard to anybody or to anybody's property, namely the neighbor's property. The building is sort of squeezed between a much larger multi-unit condo on the east and then a single-family home that's similar to our client's home to the west. And here are some photographs. We just have the tax record photo at the front. We're not really talking about anything at the front here tonight. This is the old elevation prior to commencement of construction for the 3-story addition, the 3-story addition. And here's a photo currently after the addition's been constructed with that cutout for the courtyard. You see that we made some room there for the windows at the neighboring building, and also can see that the neighboring building is sort of much taller than these other row houses next to it. I should stress, I suppose, that none of this work is visible from any public right-of-way. Not even, there's no glimpse of it. And when you're standing on the back, the very back of our client's property, looking up, you can't see the top of the addition, so it won't be visible from the garden levels either for whomever might be in the backyards and in the donut hole, so to speak. And that is our proposal.
Any questions from commissioners?
So as part of the work that was approved, so that was a staff level approval for a 3-story addition?
Yes.
Okay. And was the reconstruction of the top floor part of that? Or, because it looks like it's gone now?
We did have the facade was in very poor condition, mostly because there hadn't been a gutter on the back over there, and it was just absorbing water over time. So a lot of the mortar was very spalled. We've actually, during construction, have had to repoint extensively at the interior of the home on the 3 sides. So during demolition in the back, there was a dangerous condition over there, and we did end up having to remove that top floor over there. Although we did keep, I guess there were 2 things. We did keep all the masonry from that demolition, A. And B, we had always discussed with staff at the time the idea of wanting to extend, to submit this proposal that we have here before us.
Okay, and I have seen this before where we have, so was the rest of the facade removed below the top story?
Yes.
Okay. Because that is unfortunately a common problem that I've seen where when the rest of the facade below the top story is removed, there are issues if it's not properly braced or if just issues with the rear facade that the top floor of the rear facade needs to come down and be reconstructed. But I guess staff was properly notified of this and the bricks were kept in a safe place.
We did keep all the bricks intending to reuse them.
Okay.
I mean, assuming that the drawing on the left on the screen right now is from that first application, in that application, the note says rear facade to be constructed of brick recovered from demolition of existing facade. So is it the case that when that prior application was before this commission, you had expected to demo that top story?
We were aware that the facade was in very poor condition, but not. I think it became much more apparent after the property was gutted, and you could really see, particularly on the inside, how much mortar had spalled away over time. It was like dust. You could sometimes just pull the bricks off, so it was a bit of a delicate situation during construction.
I guess the follow-up question would be the new facade notes the Glengarry spec. Are you still considering reusing the bricks that you've saved?
So the total percentage of recovered masonry is far below what would be required to fully reconstruct it using that masonry. We do have a pile of it in the back. So in theory, if we wanted to reconstruct the top floor out of that masonry, there's probably sufficient for that, but there wouldn't be sufficient for the entire. Yeah.
And so this building is part of, so my concern is that there are at least 2 other buildings to the west that are part of the same row, have the same pattern of punch window openings, and in the same plane. Is that the extent of it, or is there any other buildings as part of this row? I know there's a big former industrial warehouse building by a couple buildings over.
It's this one is what I think you're talking about, the 160. Yeah, that's the
so
large.
I think we can see 160. So this is 163.5. Okay.
Right.
163 is to the right. That goes back much further. Okay, so there's only these 2 buildings to the left.
Right. And
that are part of this row.
Correct. And 165 York has an addition as well, and it's an odd sort of geometry next door there. Yeah.
I have a question. Is the height of the rear facade changing at all? Because it looked in your side-by-side elevations, maybe it was being raised a bit?
We did raise it a little bit because the head clearance. Let me see if I can. Right. So that slight increase in height is just to allow for comfortable head height inside the enlarged space. It's already low as it is. So at this location over here inside, it's like 7 feet.
I would possibly, since I've been there, think that it might even be less than 7 feet. I remember feeling stuff on my.
But otherwise, the punched openings are the same. They're just coming out. They're
Yes.
already in the same position and everything. Okay.
The goal is to, as much as possible, recreate the prior configuration.
Any further questions? Okay, if that concludes your testimony.
Yes.
Okay, then we can move on to public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic. Staff sees no members of the public present and recommends a motion to open and close public comment.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and we can move into staff comments.
So just piggybacking on Mr. Cortez's comments, the lower 3 stories were approved by staff since this new addition, even though it is only 7 foot deep, I believe, since it goes to the roof line and will increase the height of the roof line, does have to come to the commission. I did not see the condition of the rear wall beforehand, but I can tell you that having visited it afterwards, the roof height at the very, very back was uncomfortable for me, standing 6'1" and wearing my flats. It also is a very small room, so this will make it this addition will make the space a bit more functional. Staff has no objections to the application. It is not visible, and as long as the adjacent building to the west is supported, as long as the rear wall is supported and not damaged, staff has no further comments except to approve the addition as proposed.
So again, staff's recommendation this evening is for a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness with conditions in the staff report.
And can I just have a question for staff? So
Yes.
this new addition is going to be how much further out?
I believe it's, how many feet? 7?
The top story addition, the single addition,
Yes.
what we're discussing now, it's 3 feet 7 inches out.
And
3
you don't-
feet 7 inches.
Do you have any concern with this being in a forward plane from the other 2 buildings to the west?
No.
What about the stucco on the side?
Stucco was already approved by another staff member, so I think that it would be better to be consistent with the
Paradigm of the addition below.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have Gunther
Second.
and Sakong. Do you agree? Do you and your client agree to the conditions in the report?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll move on to a roll call vote. Commissioner Sandcamp,
Aye.
Commissioner Gunther,
Aye.
Commissioner Sakong,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak.
I'm going to vote nay. I do have concerns with the changing of the plane of the rear facade as compared to the buildings within the row. So I'm going to cite 341, 71, and I'm going to cite Section 3 additions, just in general, as well as the new construction in historic districts, specifically with roof forms, as well as there was one more that I had. Sorry, I'll just leave it there.
Okay, and just to clarify, you said 345, right? 345?
345-71. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Gordon?
Aye.
And Chair Cronin?
Aye.
So we have 5 in favor, 1 against, no abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness is approved with
Thank you
conditions.
very much. Nice to see you all. Thanks.
Have a good night. Okay.
Okay, moving on to tabled cases. I do not believe we have any updates on 172 Belmont.
Yes, I have spoken with the owners of 172 Belmont. They are hiring they have provided me with photographs of all 4 facades of the building with notes about what materials they had and what materials they would like to use. They are also going to be engaging the services of a carpenter to do woodwork and trim around the windows, at the gables, at the cornices. Aside from and apart from the original contractor, so stay tuned. There are constant developments in the right direction here.
Okay, great. And then we can move on to demolition review, if you would.
Okay, our first one is 1051 Garfield Avenue. And that's B-25-00007.
Okay, and I believe we have the applicant.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Robert Bertabello from the law firm of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant Public Service Electric and Gas Company, otherwise known as PSE&G. We submitted this application for a demolition permit in connection with the upgrade and rebuilding of the Garfield Avenue substation. We do have pending before the zoning board an application, a site plan application. As part of the checklist requirements, we were required to submit a demolition permit, which has been reviewed by the Historic Preservation Office. We do acknowledge the age of this building. I know a memorandum was issued by staff on this, recommending that the demolition permit be denied. We ask that that not be followed. One technical question I have is, as part of our application, our demolition permit application, we had included a facility assessment by our project engineer. When I looked online on the agenda, I did not see that as part of the package of documents that was included before the commission this evening. I just wanted to check on the record to see if that assessment was part of the file that was provided to the commissioners.
I did not upload that. It is a structural assessment. Structural integrity is not one of the factors that this commission can review demolition applications under. So I did not feel that it was relevant to the current application. It's also not one of the things that we ask for in a demolition application. If it would make sense, I can upload that onto the portal for further review. But I do not see how it is relevant to this application.
We respectfully disagree, especially since my understanding is the application that's before this commission this evening is to recommend to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board pursuant to, and I'm citing from 345-9, and perhaps I'm mistaken, but my understanding is the purpose of this hearing is to recommend to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board the grant or denial of development applications where such are deemed to be within the intent and purposes of this article. If that is in fact what's going on this evening, then I think that structural report was germane to what is going to be discussed here this evening. Ultimately, what PSE&G is purporting is we are not debating the age or the factors that are listed in the historic preservation memo. but we do assert that there's a balancing of interests that have to occur. While historic preservation is understandably important, that has to be balanced with other factors such as economic development and public utility need. In this situation, public service needs to, for a variety of factors, many of which are laid out in that memo, which is not part of the file that you have had the opportunity to review this evening. It laid out that this facility is now functionally obsolete. In order for PSE&G to maintain its mandate of providing safe, reliable, sustainable energy to the citizenry of Jersey City, this building needs to be replaced. This isn't simply a structure that warehouses equipment. The equipment is part of the housing, and as a result, we cannot just rehab the existing building and divorce it from the equipment. It all is essentially a package deal, for lack of a better term. So based on that, we respectfully assert that all of that needs to be considered here this evening. And again, if the purpose of tonight's hearing is under 345-9, that is certainly within the purview of this board to review. We acknowledge that the staff's memo is restricted to the 7 items that are now listed in the revised section 345, but this commission's review is not.
My understanding is this is a demolition permit application, right, for prior approval?
Correct.
So I don't know if it's 345-9, but rather 105-3, which then cites to the factors listed in 345-30.
But 345-9 sets forth the powers and abilities of this board. 105-7 does not. 105-7 provides the mechanism by which a demolition permit is reviewed by staff. It does not speak to the powers of this board. Perhaps 345-9 should have been amended accordingly, but presently it has not been. So my question for you then, counsel, is what are we proceeding under? And how is this board empowered to do that?
I would say 105 is the procedures for demolition permits, and it cites to the factors under review in 345.
Again, your enabling ordinance is 345-9, is it not?
Let's look at what 345-9 says. Oh, super. I guess 345-9B, right? Powers and duties of the Historic Preservation Commission. B4, to advise and assist city officers, employees, boards, and other bodies on all matters which have potential impact. Yeah, I guess that 345-9, yeah, establishes the HPC and the powers and duties and the membership. I guess I'm not understanding what you're saying about 345-9 not allowing for the review that is happening.
It was stated by staff that the review of this board is limited. Our position is that there are other factors that should be considered in addition to the factors set forth in Section 105. And 345-9 permits this commission to review those factors. Those factors were not properly submitted to the review of this board. For the record, we want that noted. Secondarily, we're going to put on the record our secondary reasons that we think are valid for this commission to consider.
Do you have a copy of the?
Yes, I have a copy of the report that could be marked as an exhibit this evening.
Yes. If you would like to do that, that is sufficient for me. I don't know if Jonathan feels about that, but.
No, yeah, I think it can be part of the application and part of your discussion, but I do think that the commission is limited in its factors of review for a recommendation for prior approval to the zoning officer in an application for a demolition permit to be limited to 345-30.
And what is the basis for that?
The basis for that is 105 sets forth the procedures for a demolition permit application, and it says that the review is limited to the factors in 345.
But I would submit that that is with regards to the, if my memory serves correctly, Section 345E submits, applies to the Historic Preservation Officer, not to the Commission.
That is what the Historic Preservation Officers Commission, the Historic Preservation Officers Review is to the Commission.
Correct,
So the
and I'm
Commission,
not disputing that.
Great.
Well, what I'm disputing is that this commission is not restricted by that section. We can agree to disagree, but I think this commission can make a more holistic review of this application, not restricted solely to the 105 factors, given its mandate under 345, under the enabling ordinance and mandate under 345-9.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
While you review that, I have some other housekeeping. We have the check for precision reporting. So.
I think that the factors for demolition review and a recommendation to prior approval are limited by the zoning, the demolition ordinance, and the corresponding 345 sections pertaining to demolition review. But I see what you're saying, and it's not my job to limit what evidence is submitted to the board. It's the chair and staff. So I would say you can put the case on that you would like. But my advice is to limit your review of these factors that are listed in the zoning ordinance.
Again, for purposes of the record, we will mark the report as Exhibit A1. If I may approach. And as I just note for the record, pieces of our site plan application were submitted to this commission, so I don't understand why this report was not included. But this report is now part of the record this evening. It is available for review and inspection should any commission member want to review it, but we would ask that any recommendation that this commission makes take account of this report. Again, just to reiterate, our main argument is that we're generally proud that our substation has withstood the test of time, and our Garfield Avenue station, which has been utilized as an electric substation for this entire time, the use has not changed. Our proposal is not to change the use. Our proposal is to upgrade, and unfortunately, through the upgrading process, we will be compelled to replace the existing building. We're proud of the fact that it has stayed there. As I said earlier, we acknowledge that public utility infrastructure is not inherently exempt from complying with historic preservation laws, but we respectfully submit that there's a balancing of interests that have to occur, namely that preservation efforts need to be balanced with other interests such as economic development and public utility needs. This particular substation is part of a network of substations that provides electric service to the southern and eastern portions of Jersey City, namely of which is the Morris Canal area, which I'm sure everyone on this commission is aware has undergone tremendous growth in the last 25 years. This particular station has been maintaining electrical service for 100 years to over 15,000 residents of this city. In order for public service to continue to supply that service, there are necessary upgrades that need to occur. And that is part of our site plan application, which is relevant and germane to this application that's here before you this evening. That is the sole reason why we have submitted the demolition permit. We tried to relocate the station, but unfortunately there are no other properties available. Therefore, any upgrade has to occur on site. I have with me this evening Noreen Morainer, who is a licensed professional planner for public service. She will provide more detail as far as what has been going on with the upgrades in Jersey City and the other factors that we respectfully submit this commission should consider before rendering any recommendation to the zoning board. If there are no questions for me, I will introduce Ms. Morainer as my witness.
I will just question. Right now, we're making the commission is making a recommendation to the zoning official, right? Not the zoning board.
Well,
Correct.
according to the MLUL, your recommendation is to the board. And again, according to 345-9, any recommendation this commission makes is to the board, not the official.
Staff's recommendation is to the board. The board's recommendation is to the zoning official.
But again, that's inconsistent with your regulations.
Because when it's referred to the commission, my understanding is that when it's referred to the commission by the zoning board or the planning board, then the recommendation is made to the zoning board or the planning board. But in applications for demolition permits, the ordinance says that they need prior approval of the zoning official. And in this instance, the commission is making a recommendation to the zoning official on whether to issue prior approval for this construction permit.
Again, that's inconsistent with 345. I would just note for the record that what council has just said is inconsistent with 345-9. If that's the position of council, we will accept that, but we will accept it under reservation that might not be the appropriate law or procedure. And we want that noted for the record. I'll proceed to my
just a question for our council. Do you recommend that we review this?
I think
we can review this?
I think that you should review the application as it's submitted, right? And the ordinance does say review the materials that the applicant submits. So I think you should review that.
Okay. And just noting that this is, this has, Robert can further talk about it, and I guess we'll have perhaps testimony relating to this.
We do not have an engineering expert here this evening.
Engineering.
I do think it's unfortunate that perhaps materials the applicant wanted to be reviewed were not included in the application that you received. If you would like to, if you'd be amenable to adjourning this so that they can review that.
We did, in all respect, we did ask 2 weeks ago for that to be disseminated to the commission members, and staff refused to do so.
I do apologize. I did not refuse. When the application was submitted, that was included on the Tyler application. We then send the application out to a consultant for review. Because the consultant cannot review engineering documents, they're not certified engineers. It's not part of their purview as per the ordinance, the way it's set out. We did not send it to them, and I just upload straight from what I get back from the consultants. I did not intentionally do it. When we discussed it, I know you had brought it up. I did not realize that it was when we had discussed the contents of it. I did not take it as an instruction to upload it as part of the application. I do apologize for that. It was my mistake. I was not intentional,
Yeah, and this is a technical engineering document that has at least 17 pages of text and conclusions, photographic surveys, photographs, etc. So I'm happy to hear this application, but I think kind of like as our
So we're
council
not going to be able to. We're not all going to be able to review that tonight.
Exactly, and I'm happy to pass this down, but I'd like to be able to review this further.
Okay. So should we table this for another date? I think that's the only. I think it's the appropriate thing.
I think
if you want us to review this, we can't review it right now. We're not going to sit here all night and pass it around.
I understand.
And frankly, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know if I understand half of it, to be honest with you. But I would like time, and I think we'd like time to see and to think about this.
I have just two questions for our council. When we have reviewed these types of applications in the past for demolition, construction permits, have we reviewed engineering reports in tandem with the memorandum that addresses the aspects of integrity?
I can't speak to say what is reviewed for every demolition application. I feel like this is not
Before the
me out.
commission, I guess.
Before the commission. I can say that the ordinance that I maintain is what's covering these procedures is 105-3 permit procedures for demolition permits. And it says that the commission will review everything that the applicant submits. I think if the applicant is saying, I would like you to review this, I would advise us all to review it. To what extent that's part of your determination, I think is a different question. But we're not bound by the strict rules of evidence, but I think it behooves us to give people the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you.
And to speak on that further, this just to clarify something as well, we're not the final. This is a recommendation to either the zoning officer or the zoning board. I'm not sure, but they have the final say, and they can therefore choose to accept or ignore our recommendation, whether it be for or against the demolition of this building, and they can take other factors into consideration than just the 7 aspects of integrity that we're bound by.
That is my understanding.
Again, I would respectfully request or respectfully assert that you're not bound by the 7 factors of integrity. Staff is restricted by the 7 factors of integrity. You are not, as a commission.
Well, I think that's something we might need to have figured out. I don't know how we just. I don't think we're going to be able to get to that answer tonight.
Will you be able to get to that answer by the next meeting?
I think that's something that. Sorry, I think it's something a council.
I would appreciate the time to
I think
address that.
We'll certainly
more
have a better
fully.
chance of getting into it by the next meeting than just doing it off the fly tonight, in all honesty.
We would still ask the courtesy of being able to put our factors on the record just to preserve our rights.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Put them on, right?
Correct.
Submitting this, everything that you want submitted for review, submit it. I don't know how, if that would be something that like we revise the application or upload it in the portal.
Yeah, I'll just upload the report to the data portal, and it'll be public, and then everybody can review it, and then at the next meeting we can start the night off with this application.
Is there?
I'm not really sure how any of this really serves the applicant. If there's a delay, if we end up ultimately determining that our consideration is narrowed to those 7 factors, but the zoning board or the zoning official has the ability to take into consideration other factors, such as those the applicant has presented, then I would think the applicant would want to get before the zoning board so that they can present those arguments, because I don't know that this is the correct body to do that. I mean, I understand we can take that back and look at maybe we can, but this is just delaying the process unnecessarily.
I wouldn't clarify it as delay. This is important for maintaining the integrity of the record. What this commission does should be based on the full record. That then gets recommended to the zoning board, and we will proceed accordingly. But for you to have an incomplete record doesn't necessarily do my client any good.
We have accepted your report and entered it into the record. You've made your arguments very clearly on the record, so I think if you need to preserve arguments for appeal, you've accomplished that.
That is an opinion.
If you would like to continue with your professionals, you're more than welcome to.
Okay,
Feel
thank
free.
you.
Yes, continue.
Call up Noreen Rayner, please.
I do. Please state your full name, spelling your last.
Noreen Moreno, Noreen, last name capital Merainer.
Ms. Moreno, could you just please give the commission the benefit of your qualifications?
I am testifying tonight as a professional planner. I am licensed as a professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I am employed by Public Service Electric and Gas Company. I have been with PSE&G for 27 years. Prior to that, I was an environmental planner with an engineering, environmental, and consulting firm. I have a BA in economics from Clark University, a master's in marine affairs with a concentration in coastal zone management. My thesis was on gentrification in Hoboken and Jersey City. I also have an MBA from Excelsior College, and I'm certified as a project management professional. I am here because for the
Sorry,
last...
1 second. Chair, staff recommends that the board accepts Ms. Moreno's qualifications as an expert in the field of planning.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am here because for the last 15 years, I have worked with stations in Jersey City to upgrade PSE&G's electric distribution system. The stations that PSE&G, namely me, have been the applicant for, in Jersey City, we have 12 substations and switching stations, so 12 facilities in Jersey City. So far, we have upgraded 5 of them and actually built 1 new station. Also, I was involved in 6 stations around Jersey City that have all been upgraded. All of these are in nearby municipalities like Hoboken and Bayonne. I mention this because what PSE&G has been doing is gradually updating our electric infrastructure. What we do is wherever there is the most electric demand and development pressure, that's where we go and upgrade our system. Plans to update Garfield Avenue substation started in 2019. Like the city master plan, what we're doing is planning for long-term viability. We have an obligation to serve facilities and maintain electric service that keeps up with growth in Jersey City. And I don't have to tell you how you've grown since the 80s. That's why we've upgraded 6 stations in the city and 6 around the station. And our goal is to continue to provide reliable and safe service throughout Jersey City and Hudson County. This station, as Robert explained, serves over 15,000 customers. This station, and why it's important for you to look at this facility assessment, is it was constructed in 1907 to 1909. The station was expanded in 1916 and 1927. We have the records. Obviously, we built it. We still have the plans. Some of those plans are referenced in the package you have. What this facility report, the building assessment, is going to show is that the overall station is in poor condition. The equipment within the station is antiquated. The building that encloses the equipment is in poor condition. And you won't need to be a professional engineer to understand that as you look through this. The main concern is this building right now meets no New Jersey Uniform Construction Code standards. Doesn't mean the building's unsafe. It doesn't mean if you walk around it, it's going to fall apart. But as I said, the station is antiquated. The equipment is antiquated. We looked into how would we upgrade this station. And frankly, we have come to this one last because it's a very small site. If you've had the opportunity to walk around this station, you will find that it's literally cheek to jowl with other uses in Jersey City. This is not all that unusual for substations in urban areas. For example, in this station, you'll find that on Harmon Street, we're right next to 3 garages, where across the street from a new residential development, on Garfield Avenue, we're opposite from tire stores. The only new structure in the area is the ice cream store that is right next to us. However, the area is revitalizing. the ice cream store, the new residences that were built opposite the corner of Harmon and Garfield, and even a new residence on Randolph Avenue. We back up to them. So the area is revitalizing, and we're there to support the revitalization. Our concern is that we believe, based on the situation and our unique role in the city, that this board should look at some other standards. In particular, you shouldn't just look at the historic building that we're in, but rather you should also look at the neighborhood and what's happening to the neighborhood. Now, as the staff report mentions, it looks like there's possibly been some encroachment onto the station. You have brand-new residences across the street. Certainly, there's not really been too much in the area that's helped to preserve the historic integrity. The station's not in a historic district. It's not next to any other historic structures. It's not designated as a local landmark. We wonder, if this is so historic, why have these other things been allowed to encroach? We think it would be more important for the commission to recognize the paramount importance of the building and its whole use as an electric distribution facility. What that means is that inside the building, we have equipment that essentially takes 1 voltage and converts it to something more usable by commercial and residential neighbors. The building is essentially a structure that surrounds the equipment. Normally, you would think of a public utility as just the pipes and wires. Certainly, we do electric and gas throughout the city and Hudson County. People would think the wires are electric and the pipes would be gas. But actually, there are a number of underground circuits we call conduits. You could consider those as pipes. So we're pipes and wires, and we're throughout the city, and in particular, along Garfield Avenue. We think there's a compelling public need for safe and reliable energy. This station, like all of our other facilities, serves a very utilitarian and important function. So you should consider the use for this station. We're not a warehouse that's converting to residential or commercial. We've been public utility the entire time, and we plan to continue to be public utility. As I mentioned, the report that we are asking to be submitted into evidence shows that the building doesn't conform to any modern building standards. It cannot continue in the long term to be sustainable. That's why we did this facility assessment when we were looking at what can we do at this station. We looked at 11 different opportunities, or rather building options, since 2019. We thought, can we build this station elsewhere? So what we did is started looking in a radius of 3 to 5 blocks for other property. You know this area. There's not a lot of spare property. The best we could do was buy some houses on Randolph, which is behind our substation. And what we will use those 2 properties for is to run underground circuits. Not even put electrical equipment, but rather underground circuits, because you can imagine Garfield Avenue chock full of utilities. Some are ours, some are JCMUA's, some are, well, who knows what's actually down there. We know it's cobblestones, it could be Jimmy Hoffa. I hope it's not former Mayor Frank Hague. But there's stuff there, and we have to work all around this. Our concern is, even if we could update the building, it will not be able to contain the modern utility equipment. We all know things have drastically changed since 1907. We are worried that even getting the equipment out of the building may cause us to take down walls or the entire building. The equipment is literally fitted into alcoves. In fact, some of us are wondering how did we build this the first time? That building report will show you some photos and show you generally what's going on there. And I think you'll be able to understand it as lay people. So what we're asking is, consider that there's more than just historic preservation going on here. It's also sustainability, its compelling public need for public utilities, its infrastructure, its economic development. What we can do is we can change our proposed architecture however you might see fit. We had originally started speaking with Mayor Fulop and City Planning in March 2022. Mayor Fulop told us he doesn't like the look of any of our substations. He wants walls around everything, so you can't actually see what's going in. Well, all right, if he wants walls, we can do walls. So that's why I had worked with Tanya Marione and former planner Liz Oper to decide what could we do. We all decided that a neoclassical, traditional building was the best. That's what this building generally is, and we'd like to keep that kind of motif going on. But what we can do, if you wish to, is we can replicate the Palladian windows. We can move the emblem. Our traditional logo was a triangle, and it represented electric, gas, and transportation when we were actually operating railroads and trolleys. That emblem, I'd like to put that on the front of the building. I'd also like to take the historic nameplate of the building, Garfield Avenue Substation, move it from Harmon, and I'd like to put it front and center, right on Garfield Avenue. We can also do a historic plaque. After all, we have all the records of how this building was constructed. This is not something that would normally be in the public domain. It's ours, so of course we have the records. We can make that available. We are also willing, if you would like, we can put a historic plaque, sorry.
Just make sure you're speaking into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
We can put a historic plaque on the building explaining what the building is and how it was constructed and its relevance to Jersey City. I have done that in other cities. Also, PSE&G on my projects have done interpretive signs along the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission. This is in Southbound Brook and Lawrenceville for our stations. So we are prepared to make the building look however you would want, but our concern is the building in its current state is not something that we should keep. We can, however, replicate it, and we're suggesting that when you evaluate this, you look at section 345-30 E.1 and E.2 because of the unique function of this building. And look at the use. Look at the structure as it is. Look to see, can we reproduce anything on this building? We think we can, and we think we can come up with something acceptable. But we cannot use the building as it is now.
Any questions for Ms. Moreno?
I did look through the report just now, and my understanding in the conclusion was that it would be possible to expand the existing building, bring the existing portions of the building up to the current codes, and extend the life of the building for 60 to 75 years for the cost of $138,665,606. Is that consistent with your evaluation?
It is similar. Our concern is that the modern equipment is such a size that if we reinforce this building, and you will see that this is unsupported masonry, we have to put a whole superstructure inside the building.
That's right.
That limits the size of the equipment, and that's our concern.
If I may jump in. A lot of your argument, I think, has clearly articulated why the building can't remain as is, and the very real need to expand electrical service in this neighborhood. I personally accept both of those premises. Clearly, this building can't remain as is, and clearly, we do need to balance historic preservation, the importance of historic preservation against and alongside with the real needs of a growing city, infrastructural needs. What I have not heard yet is why this building cannot be adaptively reused, why you can't stabilize the building structurally, why you can't introduce, lateral bracing, why you can't reinforce the foundations and introduce a superstructure and make the building work to provide both the additional electrical service that the community needs, as well as preserve the historic integrity and character of this building. I think it's important for us as a body to note that all the comments about what you would provide once the building is demolished and what you would build back, I think we should not review, because that would be that would be filed separately, right? You would submit that as a separate certificate of appropriateness. I think, again, sort of going back to the question of should or should we not demolish this building, independent from what you would put in its place. I have skimmed this report, and I would appreciate the additional time to review it further. But I don't know if I count myself as a layperson. I am a practicing architect. I do adaptive reuse projects all the time in the hundreds of millions of dollars of cost and impact and infrastructure. I have actually recently designed a substation with historic considerations in mind. In my mind, this is all doable, simply costly. Doable, simply costly, period. So while I accept the applicant's, let's say, originating premises of, again, the need to expand service and the inability of the existing building as is to accommodate that expansion of service, I have not yet heard why it can't be done with an upgrade of the building's systems from a structural point of view, from a building construction point of view. It seems doable to me. I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Ms. Moreno? Okay.
Besides the structural report, is there anything else that you would like to have posted on the portal?
I believe the building assessment is the most important. Certainly, we had provided you with all the deeds we have for this property.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the ownership record and how we assembled the lots.
I will post the deeds as well.
I said I was done. What do you know? If you have studies, infrastructural studies, architectural test fits, building system evaluations that test sort of what the needs are of this building against what the building provides. Beyond the structure, I mean, this is a good start. Is valid. Again, I'm not, to be clear, I'm not sure that this falls under the purview of demolition review, but since it's submitted, I'm happy to review it. But if there are additional test fits or studies that substantiate the claim that this can't be done, period, I would certainly, personally, I would welcome the chance to review. But I would remind the applicant also that this board reviews buildings of historic significance and the built environment with historic significance, and not necessarily the cost to do so.
What I am not doing is, since I am not a licensed professional engineer, in no way am I testifying on behalf of what the conclusions of the report. I am merely mentioning that there is a report that should be understandable to many people. Certainly, if there is a need to have the signatory testify, we can do that, if you think it's even needed.
I mean, I don't think it's needed. I just think it's very interesting that the report that the applicant places such emphasis on indicates that the building can be preserved for the next 60 to 75 years at a cost, and it explicitly says it's cheaper to demolish it than to bring it up to code. That, to me, is the bottom line.
Again, what I would caution against that conclusion, and again, that was written as part of our site plan application, which we conceded, and we have introduced it this evening, is the concern also that was raised, which Noreen put on the record earlier, is in removing the equipment from the existing building, the building may be compromised and might not be able to be saved as part of that process of removal. We don't know. And again, we haven't.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Is that an opinion as rendered by construction manager? Is that something that has been sort of tested and studied? Or is that someone who walked the site and kind of opined?
I don't know if you can take anecdotal information, but this was from the project manager, Frank DiGiacomo, who is not able to be here tonight. He has wondered how he's even getting equipment out of this building.
I'm sorry, PSE&G's project manager.
Yes. Yes.
So, you know, the reason why independent reports are useful is because there's just a separation of interest, right? So, if there's an independent consultant, engineer, construction manager who can study the process of removing these things, shoring and stabilizing in the process, and kind of constructing a step-by-step sort of sequence of how that process might unfold, and then kind of pinpoint, but here actually we're stuck in a Gordian knot, and this isn't going to work, or I don't know how to figure this out. That would be a much more precise and useful reference for us. I think a PSE&G project manager who works for a company in whose interest it's cheaper to demolish a historic asset, I think would be less convincing, at least for me.
Understood. That's why it may well be just anecdotal. That really does not, and I'm giving this third party, so how?
Right.
But you asked, so I'm telling you, but it may not be what you want to consider, because it may be hearsay.
So I'm providing the applicant a chance to go beyond the anecdotal and substantiate these anecdotes with more, let's say, substantive and credentialed evidence.
Okay.
Okay, so
adjourn.
Yeah, Robert, if you are amenable to it, we could.
Well, what's the proposal? I'm not sure what the proposal is. I presume the commission's not going to make or render any decision tonight. Is that correct?
Correct. I think the proposal would be to adjourn, and then we would review this, and then we would take this up at the next meeting. And following up with the commissioner's idea of having like third-party validation for what you're saying, because obviously, we want to make sure we're getting non-biased.
Sure, you're getting all the facts.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think we want to have our council have the time to look at this and look at the ordinance and make sure how we're reviewing this.
Yeah, exactly.
In accordance with the ordinance.
Just want to get everybody's ducks in a row. That's
Understood.
all.
That's what we were trying to do.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if we could have a motion to.
I'll make a motion to table to the next scheduled meeting.
Yes.
Or just carry it. You probably don't want to table it, right?
Just
carry it.
Carry.
Yeah. And just for the record, no public notice is required. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll make you made the motion. I'll second the motion to carry this to the next public meeting in June.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
See you in June.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for hearing
Do we do?
us.
We're just carrying it. Unless.
Yeah, carrying it is fine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, one more.
Yeah, it is 9:48. It is past.
9:48.
It is past our 9:30 call time.
Yeah,
so
so I think it's time
if
to go
everybody's amenable to it, I would say we just carry that one as well to the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to carry the next agenda item, which is
It is 85 Wade Street, B25-0010.
So I make a motion to carry 85 Wade Street, B 250010 to the next scheduled meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have no updates on the tabled demo case. I have not heard from them. We have no resolutions to review and approve. We do not need an executive session. All that leaves this evening is adjournment. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, it is 9:49. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.